Every child can learn, every child must learn is the slogan that the Ministry of Education stands firmly by. However, are we doing the best we can do? Are we inclusive enough? What are we doing wrong? And how can we improve our system to ensure that future Jamaica is in a better place than we presently are? Here to discuss this topic with us, we have Darien Henry, Kasan Troupe, and Jason Brown. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
We're starting with Kasan for reasons that will become clear to the viewers soon enough. When we hear that tagline, and it's an awesome tagline,
yeah.
Every child can learn, every child must learn.
Yes.
What exactly is the system that supports that belief?
Well, we believe in that mantra,
yes.
right? Because we believe in the capacity that has been given to every single Jamaican child, and every single child for that matter. And our system is designed to make sure that we tap into the intelligence of every single child. So whatever that child comes with, we have been able to resource the system in terms of provisions for staff, provision for the operations, for the maintenance, to make sure that all our children who enter into the walls of our institution, we will have value added and they will maximize. That's basically what the mantra is. Every child is supposed to be better when they exit this system
than when they enter. Jason, Kasan made a point when she mentions the intelligence that they have.
Yes.
So we have accepted that not all children are at the same level. Now, when a teacher has upwards of 25 or even more than that students in front of her, differently abled, even within the same age group, how do they get the resources to do the assessments while doing the delivery?
I believe that the first thing a teacher must understand is that they are at different levels and that no child is the same. So as a teacher, you have to see your students from that standpoint and appreciate the fact that everyone learns at a different pace. So it's up to you to assess what you have in front of you, what you're dealing with, your books, your lessons, your resources, to see how best I can affect my students to meet them at their level. Because the reality is, everyone is unique. So you have to tailor your content to meet the ones who are auditory, the ones who are tactile, the ones who are visual, to ensure that at the end of the day, everyone gets the same takeaway from what you're presenting.
And in that wide bracket of tactile and visual, you have children that have impairments of various types.
Yes.
How does the system treat, let me pivot to Darien, because you have it as not just a teacher in a class, but the head teacher assessing several classes and the students within those. How does the distinction and the differentiation that a child is relatively impaired to what the standard is or the average child is, how is that ameliorated? How is that helped in the class?
Well, for the modern day pedagogue and for the modern day instructional leader, it's
Break down pedagogue. It's a Monday morning. People have not had their tea yet.
Yes. But seriously though, it's important to understand what the global trends are in teaching and learning. Nothing is static anymore. So for the instructional leader, how do you lead your teachers to ensure that you're maximizing impact on our students, particularly our boys? Boys are learning differently even more and more. The question is, are we tapping into their best learning ability? Are we tapping into how they understand to perceive things? Boys are different creatures, yes? So the system itself needs to be calibrated in time and ensure that they are impacted. A lot of the teachers in the system are female. Over 80% are females. Yes. The question is...
Over 80% of unattached youth are males.
Indeed. So the question is, how do you annex and bring that together to bear to ensure that our boys are being impacted in a serious way?
So, Kasan, it begs the question, is the education system as it's presently constructed? I went to an all-boys secondary school, St. George's College, but majority of the secondary schools are co-educational. Right. So we have as many layers as an onion. We have differently abled, we have some who are impaired relative to the standard, and we now have the differential between how boys learn and how girls learn.
Right.
Are our boys being shunted out of the system because the classroom space is being described increasingly as anti-thematic to the way boys learn?
Certainly not. Our system, as Darien said, we have to be agile and responsive. So we are conscious that boys learn differently. And our national exit exam at the primary level would have provided a profile of every single child that transitions into the high school. That is a packaged information for our teachers to use to tailor their learning episodes towards the needs of these children. We have also trained our school leaders and our teachers in gender-based learning, how to tap into the boys. They are different, right? They have rest states. So if there are 10, 15 minutes, they want to move. We sensitize our teachers to this, right? We build their capacity to write creative lesson plans for the boys. Our Jamaica Teaching Council has a boys mentorship program, building the boys themselves in terms of their awareness and their abilities, and building the capacity of our teachers to tap into their abilities.
So as we mentioned, the mentorship, this is one that I know parents are always asking, increasingly as well. What is a support mechanism now for parents to assist teachers to assist their own children to meet the learning standards?
Well, I'm happy you asked that, because we just recently launched our National Parenting Support Commission's Parent Month activity.
That's for this month.
That's for this month. And a big part of what they're doing is building the parents' capacity to support the learning of their children.
So, Darien, it's no longer just PTA.
No,
it's no longer
just PTA. The sphere of support has to be widened significantly. But what I really want to make the point that the role of the parent and the family support structure, because the family is changing as well, and a lot of people don't realize that the structure of families are changing, the flavor of families are changing, so the support mechanism has to be changing as well. I've been working very closely, for instance, at my school with our parents to help them to understand what a lesson plan looks like, what a teaching episode looks like, all of these things.
Now, I like these terms. It's no longer a classroom, it's a teaching episode. Good morning to all of my former teachers and our teaching episodes. They were epic. Now, so we're talking about the lesson plan. I have an issue there. I'm going to come to you with this question, Jason. I believe that our lesson plans, at the very best, will produce excellent students for a past situation. Let's talk about the creative economy. Jamaica is a cultural superstate that we spoke about tactile versus auditory. A lot of the boys in the unattached community are the tomorrow bossa tune cartels et al. What differently can we do to make the output from today's education system more applicable to today's evolving economy?
I think it goes back to what Darien said earlier. We have to look at the trends globally and see how best we can put ourselves against that. Because the reality is the creative sphere, it's growing increasingly, especially in Jamaica now. And we have to realize that it's okay to not want to do the traditional, the doctor, the lawyer, the teacher. And it's okay, and we have to tailor and look at what it is that they are interested in and see how we can facilitate that.
Because whatever they're interested in, there is a teacher, Kasan, who can help to optimize that latent talent to make it marketable and commercial.
Additionally, Raymond, the whole notion of TVET, TVET infusion as well. And
supports that.
If you use another acronym, you have to leave a $5,000.
Technical vocation, education and training. That's the revamped frontier for global leapfrogging, I must say.
So we have the TVET frontier and we have the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math.
So to answer your question,
and we have the arts as well. Sometimes it's STEAM.
Yes,
and that is what is going to drive the orange economy that you're talking about. Is the creative economy.
There we go.
Isn't it funny? So we've gone back to the steam engine concept as to pushing the next wave of human development. Except it's not steam, hot water, no gas. It's STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts,
so on.
and mathematics.
If we cannot lose focus of that, the modern day instructional leader, the modern day teacher, the modern day policymakers cannot lose sight of that. We have to think about sustainable development as well, and helping our children and our leaders and teachers to understand what's going to happen in 50 years or so. We have to build that foundation from now.
Right, and what we do, we ask our principals to look at the package that comes to you, look at the profile that comes to you, you and refashion your growth plan in your school. Send us that budget and we will evaluate and we will resource. Because we have to be responsive. Tell us what you need. Our job at the ministry is to provision the schools with the resources. We have no limits on creativity and innovation in our system because we understand the differences in each school.
Are there factually, though, limitations on cash money resources?
Well, there will always be. Money is never enough. But what we talk about is creativity and responsiveness. If you can demonstrate that this is what your institution needs based on the data that is in front of you about your children, we will refashion the budget to enable that.
Lord, I have goose pimples from head to toe. Let me draw on a prior working experience. Balaclava High School, now Roger Clark High, St. George's College, my alma mater. Both of them doing the students at a certain grade doing the same CSEC curriculum. The Georgian has better equipment to guide them up to the point of the invigilator issuing the exam than that Roger Clark student does. Why does that continue to be the case?
Well, some schools are better resourced than others, and mainly also because of where they have started out.
Absolutely.
The resources that they have at their disposal. You would agree with me that the past students and the church would have helped to resource at St. George's College. We know that. Now, with a Roger Clark, that community might have a different sense of responsibility and resource and context.
Based on the time of the year, because some of those students are still helping to bring in the cane when it's cane cutting season, and fine voice, good morning,
and we are changing that.
Cutting your cane
and we are changing that. We are seeing where parents are now understanding the importance of having the children at school. We are seeing where that is changing. Our attendance rate in the rural areas, that has increased.
You know some of the places I'm talking about.
Oh yes. You see, the structural makeup of the education system is as is. We can't change that because there are historical and religious dimensions to it as well. The question is, what you do with a rural school, under-resourced school, to the best of your ability to what you have, how you organize the resources to make the maximum impact on the children. That's what's going to make you the difference. That is what is going to make the difference.
And I want to make the point that there are many economies, many countries who are moving away from this physical space of school. They are on the outside. If you Google the Finland and the Singapore, nobody is talking about locking down a child in a classroom. We are outside. We are maximizing the space. And in the country areas, we have beautiful green spaces. And what we want is for our educators to think creatively and to tap into their local resources.
So let's bring Jason in at this point. So I'm accepting as given all that you have each said. I have an additional question at this point. Now, when you say you want your principals to look at the talent that is in front of them, some of those talents, Jason, need to be medically checked for hearing impairment, for vision impairment, for where on the spectrum they may or may not be for autism. How realistic is that an expectation of the parent that there is someone from the ministry so trained and resourced that can visit an institution and help the teacher, the classroom leader, to identify what those might be in terms of their students?
Well, I would say it goes both ways because the ministry has an obligation, but the teacher as well has an obligation. So it's a case where, as a teacher, it's more than just delivering content. You yourself, you have to be able to see what's happening and to pick up when something is not right. So as a teacher, I have to look at my student, you know, something is not so right with that student here. Let me see what I can do about that. Let me just give a needs assessment in class. Let me see if I can pass this on to someone else to see how I can get that child helped. You know, so it's more than just stepping in and teaching. You have to extend what we call pastoral care, which goes beyond just delivering content. You have to look at the well-being and to see how best you can meet the need of that person, that student there. Because the resources are in place.
Can I add that the Ministry of Education has been responsive in that department?
How does it work? So the teacher escalates to the principal, and then Darien, the principal, your colleagues will...
Well, you have persons in the school he can go to.
We have,
probably the head of discipline, the guidance counselor.
So we have the guidance counselors that we may pick up.
Modern guidance counselor.
Not the Ministry of Education.
The guidance counselor.
I want to
At
quickly,
the Ministry of Education, we have a full set special needs team. We call them our student support team.
Right.
At each regional office, we have a clinical psych, a diagnostician, an educational psych, our special needs coordinator. We boast an inclusive policy.
Yeah.
Today, I want to just sensitize Jamaica that we have St. Lucia, a team from St. Lucia visiting us to look at our special education programs, and they will be touring our special education schools. They'll be looking at how we develop our framework, how we have been responding.
Right.
We provide assessment free of cost. We establish mainstream programs within the regular high schools. We have pull-out sessions, right? We have given our coaches
That's
into those schools to
important.
respond to
That's
the children.
important
We
that
have
within
been
the-
responding.
Within the high school as a plant, there's this push for inclusivity because all graduates become adult Jamaicans
Yes.
who, if we are still blunt, blind, and deaf to dealing with people with differential abilities, then we are doomed.
One of the things, though, I'm challenged with, this morning at my school, a team from the University of West Indies Psycho-Educational Assessment Unit, they're coming to test all of my grade 7 students.
Yes.
I have 225 students coming in from the PEP regime. 40% of them are on pathway 3, that is to say they're performing well below 30%. The culture, though, is that we have to develop an understanding as to how best to treat with. So when the data is gathered and accumulated, what do you do with the data?
How do you tell the single mother of a pathway 3 student that your child is pathway 3, and you're also assuring that parent that you're not saying the picnic is dopey upon them over or them doomed?
Well, we just have to communicate to them that, listen, every child can learn, every child must learn, and we will do the best we can with the best of resources to help that child.
And,
to optimize that
and
child.
no child is fixed on a pathway.
Yes.
Right?
No,
so
that is good
it's a
news.
fluid.
So I don't enter at grade 7 pathway 3 and exit at grade
11
pathway.
And they may be on different pathways for different subject areas.
What about the so pathway 1 is the regularly bright.
Those are right.
That no matter which school them land, them bright.
Yes, they're proficient. They're proficient.
Proficient, because there's bright and then there's bright. Some proficient children bright with them brightness. What about the situation where a child enters at pathway 1 and somewhere along the line, behavioral or otherwise, might more be tending toward pathway 3? Where's that early grab and intervention mechanism?
Well, that is there because we have our guidance department. We have our
modern guidance
deans, yes, and we have our deans of discipline.
Yeah.
We have a full set social work and guidance counselors at the Ministry of Education that we respond and help the high schools to treat with their difficulties. We have the school-wide behavior modification program in our system. We have a litany of behavior modification strategies that we have in our schools.
Because that's also where programs like the End Bullying and the other civic supported.
And it's a school-wide culture base. What we don't want our principals to do is to just use it when there is a problem. We are talking about building that culture of discipline, a culture of excellence. We talk about having your buzzwords, your core values, making those things the center of every conversation. So when a child walks into that school, everything changes.
Absolutely. It works. At Cumberland, I can tell you, the children, they know their core values and they know their affirmation. My school is awesome. I'm destined for greatness. That's known. And that's coming on to the school-wide positive.
I've interacted with some of your students since you've been the principal. Thumbs up.
You have to do that. I can recall when I was the grade 7 year supervisor at Jamaica College.
Good school.
Good school. Great school. Every time we meet for assembly, we would never end without saying our affirmations. I am great, I'm awesome, I'm going to have a great day. And to go back to the point, I can see now, I must commend the modern day dean of discipline. You know? It is not so much on punishing,
I'm so
but
glad
understanding.
you did not leave me hanging with my constant reference to the modern day guidance counselor. The modern day dean of discipline.
It's more of understanding what is causing the issue or trying to understand the underlying factors as to why you're acting up or
I had a guidance counselor that suggested to my mother that I needed to see an exorcist because I was collecting garbage pail stickers. Do you still have those guidance counselors in the system?
Our system is adequately resourced. Our teachers are trained. We constantly have in-service training.
Yes.
And there may be some unorthodox methods sometimes, but the intention of our teachers, our leaders, our students, everybody in that, is to make sure that everybody does well. So our school is, our ministry responds to not only our students, but our teachers. So when they need support, we have responsive programs.
I want to touch very quickly and hear from each of you about the student support facilities, such as the NSSC, right? And this is peculiar to the secondary school level, the National Secondary Students Council. Is it supported that student leadership can actually intervene, Darien, and say to the leaders of the institution, as students, consider A, B, and C?
Yes, certainly.
Not just a yes because of TV,
no, man,
yes.
No question at all. I mean, I can tell you at my school, it's a highly supportive environment. I can tell you, we had an incident where one of our teachers resigned, just like that. And a delegation came to the office and engaged us in a meeting to say that, listen,
a delegation of students.
A delegation of students led by the student council president to say, listen, we have a class of C6 students here. You have to do something and do it now because we have an urgent situation. And the school responded, yes? So that kind of support is necessary and will always be supported and has to be a part of, because we are here for the students, nothing else at the end of the day.
Jason, JC lauds itself on being the secondary school that graduates prime ministers. So student government is a big deal at Jamaica College.
It's very big, it's huge. And I can say that it is encouraged by the management as well.
Yes.
And there are forums for them to make, they can actually request meetings with the board, with the management of the school to lay out the concerns of the students.
Yes.
I've seen it done before. Take case in point, issues with the waiting period to collect your lunch, where they volunteered to put a structure in place themselves to be there to
but you all have a franchise of a particular fast food chain that we can't mention, so we're not a braff long time, you know.
Well, since you said I'll agree, yes we are.
Kasan, speak with us now about those, we mentioned it earlier, that because of the Alumni Association, the church and other relationships, some schools naturally have it more than others. How can we appropriate resources in a differential manner to aid some of the schools that are not yet there?
Well, I'm happy you said that, because our ministry recently established our School Budget Review Committee. And a part of that framework is to look at how we provide differentiation in terms of our funding. So we have an area of the budget called differentiated funding.
Yes.
So what we ask is that our principals and our bursars will submit their budget and their school improvement plan.
Yes.
We'll allocate the resources as per the regular grants, and then they will show to us that this is the extra that we need to appropriate.
Right. I mean, it's no longer part of my job description, but at Sydney Pagan STEM Academy, at Roger Clark High School, 80% of the students are path-dependent, from path-dependent families. They would need more
additional,
than just a TOPS more.
Right, and that is why we provide the path grants
There's that
for
kind
those
of smartness
institutions.
and intel-driven budgetary support.
Yes,
in the ministry.
as long as the framework in terms of the submissions, because sometimes at the ministry end we are not fully aware. Our principals are now expected to package that, discuss it with their education officer, advance it to the regional directors, and these are advanced. And I can tell you, we have a full set team of regional directors who are very responsive. They are conscious of what is required at the on the ground level, and they make sure that the submissions are made and advocacy is done on behalf of those schools.
High points on which to end. Good job, guys. This child did learn this morning. You're still at Sunrise. Curlin is up next with CVM Live, the morning edition. Sunrise continues after the news.